A thread by Carlos Oswita. Seattle moves to deliver Washington into the Trump column in November. Make sure to click Andy's tweet above to read the thread he's talking about. This is the last tweet in the thread. From Christopher F. Rufo. This is madness. If Seattle moves forward with its plan to abolish the police and permanently close the region's largest jail, it will lead to the immediate collapse of public order. But for now, the political class is following the mob. Beware. Back to Carlos. Yes, absolutely. But it has to be allowed to happen. Do you know what leftists always say when they lose elections? We weren't leftist enough. For the first time in American history, they get to implement their agenda in full. It's madness. And it's self-extermination. Leftist pundits say the darndest things. Crystal Ball says that America is a socialist country, but the reason we vote Republican is that Democrats haven't been leftist enough. Makes sense. When I have to choose between something that's close to what I want and another thing that's the polar opposite of what I want, I always choose the latter, doesn't everyone? Here's why leftists are self-exterminating, as in, here are the characteristics of leftism that make sure the ideology will eventually disappear. Leftists are cognitively rigid. They implement their agenda in defiance of what voters want. When people reject them, they say that those people are too stupid to vote in their own self-interest. They say people are too stupid to understand. They say their messaging was the issue. They say their tenets were not implemented correctly. They say real leftism was never tried. They attack their opponents mercilessly, driving away voters, and they never listen. Who else but leftists would do this? Link to a video, white Antifa protester calling a black man an Uncle Tom. White leftists think that they are entitled to arrange black people on a game board, reducing them to plastic pieces that have no right to determine their own fates. I lived in Tyler, Texas from 1972 to 1975, and I never heard the N-word once. The first time I heard it from white people was when I went to college in Portland. I went to a radically left college, and I laughed at the sheer stupidity of it. The drama, at the open racism. The school had virtually no black students. Today, the entire staff, except for one person, is white. No Hispanics, no Asians, one black. Out of 128, there's one black professor and one assistant professor who's black. When I was there, the college had no black faculty. It's a gated enclave of white privilege. And now, these loonies get to live in cities without police forces. Have you ever actually seen a police shooting from start to finish? There's one on YouTube. A female cop was checking a truck with a sleeping driver on a back road. Her instinct told her to call her partner for backup. Then she went to speak to the guy. Everything was going fine. Because he gave her a false name, she didn't know that he'd just committed a double murder. As she was looking at his papers, he stuck a gun in her face. She grabbed the barrel with both hands to hold it down, but that meant she couldn't draw her own weapon. The suspect tried to remove her mic from her vest, and then he got a second gun. The cop's partner arrived, and she let go of the gun and jumped to the side. The partner put one round through the windshield into the guy's mouth. Lights out. Bye-bye. From that point on, it was incredible how many things happened. State police arrived, and the two cops didn't describe what happened. They are not supposed to. The state police called crime scene investigators and the coroner. The cops' chief arrived and interviewed them separately, recording it with his body camera. He also took notes. An ambulance arrived. EMT examined the corpse. They then waited for the coroner. The police chief had notified somebody. His phone began ringing off the hook, so a state police commander took it and answered the calls. I'm sure it was the district attorney and the attorney general. After an hour, the chief told the female cop that she could turn off her body camera. What we didn't see was the crime scene investigators arriving and beginning to process the scene, the coroner pronouncing the murderer dead, and the two cops interviewed by homicide detectives. They would be put on administrative duty. All the evidence would be presented to the district attorney, and he or she would determine whether or not the shooting was justified. And the The two cops would have to provide written statements as well as a million other reports. You think leftist activists have any idea how to be cops? Of course not. So not only will crime go through the roof, but there won't be any justice for victims since the activists lack the ability to preserve and collect evidence. But this has to play out. Even though the innocent will suffer, Trump's only other option is to occupy the city indefinitely, which is not an option. Leftists want to burn everything down. Well, they're starting with themselves. There's a mordant joke I heard from a soldier. What does the instructor at the suicide bomber school say to the students? Watch closely, because I'm only going to do this once. Leftists are only going to do this once. Let them do it. Americans have gotten to the point that they have to actually experience something before they know it's bad. Do you know of the Bjork nutter? He sent her, Bjork, the musician, a book bomb that would spray her face with sulfuric acid. He started out loving her, but he was a virulent racist, so when he found out that she was dating a black man, he lost it. He himself was Uruguayan, not a Nordic type. He kept video diaries for 9 months that chronicled his self-hatred and increasing madness. He managed to disguise the book bomb as a package sent from her agent. Then he shot himself on camera. When the apartment tenants reported a bad smell, the cops found his body. They had the good sense to watch the last video first, called Scotland Yard, and the bomb was intercepted. The nutter didn't know how anything works. He shot himself by putting the gun in his mouth, and he discovered too late that it didn't cause instant death. I've seen the death. It's quite horrific. He screams and falls out of frame. The crime scene photos show that he crawled around before dying. You can hear his bladder emptying as he crawls. He aimed the gun at the one spot that would prevent instant death: Portland, Seattle, Minneapolis, New York. They're the Bjork nutter. They're in a death spiral. The voters can stop it. If they don't, that's not our problem.